Let's talk about the first lessons that you can teach with making sense of sounds and scribbles in your English high school classroom. The opening part of sounds and scribbles is the scope and sequence. When students are first learning how to read in kindergarten and first grade, there is a very definite set of scope and sequence. You are supposed to start with a certain little group of letters before you introduce other groups of letters, and there's a very methodical way to go about that. The problem that we have with high school students is that they're not brand new readers, right? They are coming to us with knowledge of the alphabet, of a lot of the sounds, maybe not all of them. They might have some misunderstandings about some sounds, and they have what I call gaps. I really refer to it as the Swiss cheese of reading. So they've got solid parts, and then they've got these gaps or these holes that things are missing from, and that really keeps them from becoming efficient and effective readers. So the scope and sequence here is really so that you as the teacher can know where the sound cards are located. I usually go in order. So that's for, again, the scope and sequence is here and here. Get back to this part. I usually go in order. But if you want to cover, say, all of the vowels first, you can do that. But again, it's up to you how you go about it. I do recommend, though, that whatever you choose, whatever way you choose to go through this scope and sequence, is that you are very systematic about it and that you cover all the sound cards. And when you do out loud readings, that you touch base back with the sound cards and say, hey, that is, remember when a K is in front of an N at the beginning of a word, the K is going to be what? And they'll answer, oh, silent. Okay, so let's apply what we know to what we're reading and go about it like that. But in the beginning, you're just trying to get them to have enough work under their belt and some experience that you have worked on as a class before you start doing that kind of thing. But anyway, go ahead and do the scope and sequence as you see fit. Just be systematic, and you want to cover all of the sound cards. The next thing that you want to do is make sure that you are kind of starting out with these 5 basic premises. That you have 2 groups of letters, that there are vowels and consonants, and that's really where we're going to start. And that vowels represent short, long, and odd vowel sounds, that the simplest words to follow have a CVC pattern, and that's really important to know for later. And that silent E is necessary to indicate long vowel sounds, and that silent E really is there for our eyeballs to recognize when we're reading that a vowel is going to be long most of the time. We combine vowels and consonants to represent speech sounds, and that there are rules to learn, and they're going to serve them, and exceptions exist, and that is 100% okay. You want to also introduce the idea that letters represent sound, that letters don't say anything. They're just representing the sound. When we are speaking, we don't need to have words flying over our forehead, right, for people to understand what we're saying. We can understand each other just by listening. The issue comes when we take the sound away and we're putting our words onto a piece of paper, and now our eyeballs need to interpret the letters on the page into sounds, which are the words, so that we're hearing the words inside of our mind, because really that's what reading is. Just this premise will serve you well if you can start training yourself and your students to think about letters are just representing sound, that letters aren't saying anything. And as you introduce the letters in this book and the combinations of letters in this book, say things like B represents the B sound, or long A represents the A sound, or short A represents the A sound, things like that. Every once in a while I mess up and I use the old verbiage of, B says, or the sound of B is, but B doesn't always have a sound, right? B sometimes is silent when it's next to an M at the end of a word. So just start rethinking this idea that letters represent sound. The very first lesson that you will start with your students is the concept that there are two kinds of letters, so that you have all the vowels and you have all the consonants. All the vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y, and all of the other letters are going to be the consonants. Why do we care about teaching vowels versus consonants? Why do we want to start with that? You will be surprised how many of your students in high school will not be able to tell you off the top of their head what all the vowels are. Many students won't know what you're talking about. Some might know A, and then they start guessing. Some kids are O, I, E. It's just like they're just randomly trying to pull the letters together. They need to know by the time they are 13, 14, 15 years old, they need to know what all the vowels are automatically, like this, A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. Y is going to be a vowel like 97% of the time. I don't even know why we say sometimes, because it's really like 97% of the time. When Y is starting a word, that's when it's going to be a consonant, like words yellow and yikes, that kind of thing. But if it's in the middle of a word, at the end of the word, it's probably functioning as a vowel. Anyway, let's get back to this. They need to know A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y with automaticity. And every other letter is going to be a consonant, right? How can you work this out in the time constraints of a high school classroom? You just introduce this idea to them. Give them this page, A, E, I, O, U. Put it up on the overhead. Write it on the board, whatever you need to do. A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. These are the vowels. These are the consonants. You can do callbacks as a class. A, E, I, O, U, sometimes Y. Have fun with it, right? When all the vowels are, and then you guys, A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. What I do is things like that, and then I'll go individually, and I'll just point to kids. Tell me all the vowels. A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. So it's got to be quick, rapid fire like this. They need to know these. Why do they need to know these? Because when we do something complex like we do in high school, when they hit a word they don't know when they're reading, and we say something that we think is so simple, like just sound it out. They don't know how to sound it out. Why don't they know how to sound it out? Because in order to break a word down into syllables, you have to know the vowels, because every syllable has to have a vowel. So if they're not sure what all the vowels are, they definitely can't chunk out a word into syllables accurately without guessing. So this is the first step of being able to do something more complex, like sound out a word, because they have to first make it into a syllable. So anyway, knowing this and knowing that. I would just have fun with it. When they come in the door, just randomly, hey, what are all the vowels? A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. You could do things like, when I say vowels, you say A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y, whatever. Throw candy to them. You know how to manage your classroom. Just keep it kind of simple, to the point, have fun with it. And that really is lesson number 1 right here. And just keep repeating these things and go over them and just make it fun. Okay, that's it. This book is available on Amazon, and I am Janelle Keller, the reading teacher. And see you next time.